So yeah, as Camilla just said, welcome to the data science skills that you already own in this PyData Impact. This is the agenda for today. So I'm going to give you a bit of my background. Hopefully you will find it relevant to what I'm trying to show. And then the motivation and inspiration to create such a talk or a workshop as this one. And then I will dive a bit into some case studies. These are not, real case studies, real situations that happen, but they are inspired on real situations that happened. And I would like to look at them in the perspective of learning from them and trying to take some from it. So then the idea is to give the participants some time to look at their own skills and apply what we just talked about in a very short questionnaire. And I will explain more about it afterwards. I'm planning a bit of a break after this just to give people to work on it. And then, of course, we closed this workshop. So starting on my background, as Camille just said, my background is on molecular biology. I did a BSc in genetics, an MSc in biochemistry, and then I started, yet not finished, a PhD in health sciences. And throughout that time, I did research always in the topic of molecular biology with different types of data. After that, I joined the currently where I still work on. It's called Jumia. It's an e-commerce platform that is focused on the African market. Um, uh, and of course, everything that I say today here is not related with my employer, is my perspectives and my own. And basically, talking a bit about me, I program in Python since pretty much my PhD years. In my PhD years, I started developing the data stack that you normally see around Python today, with all the Python tools, also SQL and stuff like Bash a bit, and then programming in Python, doing data analysis, data preparation, and even a bit of machine learning. And then, of course, when I started as a data scientist, I developed more the machine learning part, and that's pretty much where I'm at. Why I find this relevant for you that probably listening to this, because I'm not that senior, but at the same time, I don't consider myself in an early career stage right now. So I'm somewhere in between, and this may be useful because I still remember quite well the early career days. So I still empathize and remember the struggles of it, and maybe I have something to give to others that are in a more early career stage. I'm Portuguese. I currently live in Portugal, as you can see here from my LinkedIn in Porto. And if you have any questions during this session, please interrupt me. English is not my main language, so if you want to, if you didn't understand something, please tell me to explain it in other words. I will not be offended at all. So let's start about motivation. So why doing this talk? So I volunteer to a community, a Portuguese community of data scientists called Data Science Portugal, and we had an event where I was the moderator of a round table, a discussion table about early career in data science. It was very recent, and I had my plan as a moderator, my script focused on trying to steer a bit the discussion away from the normal skills that are spoke about, like Python, SQL, machine learning, math, those type of things, and focusing more on the remainder of the job. And actually, I didn't have to do it because the speakers from the get-go started immediately going in this direction, which was very, very ensuring for me, that knowing that the other people were also focusing on this type of ideas. And overall, for me, it's really painful, really heartbreaking looking back to people that are in early stages career, like I was some years ago, and seeing that they cannot see the value that they have and the skills that they have, and they are not able to recognize it and suffer a lot with stress, with sadness of fearing that they are not good enough or they are not capable of enough. So hopefully, with this type of conversations, we start having some more knowledge in these ideas and talk about these more freely, and hopefully help out people in an early stage career. So let's jump into the case studies. Again, mock cases that I created from nowhere. However, they are still inspired in some real life events. So the first case is a molecular biology student. Why? Because as you know by now, I was a molecular biology student. And this is actually something very similar to things that happen. Imagine this is a conversation and the student goes like, there are no jobs asking for my skills. And I'm like, really? What skills are you talking about? And the student goes a beautiful sentence like this: I'm really good doing Western blots, and my success rate of cell culture viral transfection was complemented by my advisor. If you are not from molecular biology, this sentence probably didn't make sense to you, which is completely fine. Um, what I'm trying to demonstrate here is that this student is develop really good skills of doing some tasks that are very, very specific for this field. Even within the field are very, very specific for what the student is doing. And in this case, this student is proposing himself as like these are their main skills. So my question is, are these really the student skills? And by the way, if you are in this call and you want to interact, please feel free to use the chat. Actually, let me open the chat right now because I just closed it. And feel free to interact by text, or if you want to speak, please unmute yourself and just answer. If I make a question to the audience, it's perfectly fine if you take your time to answer, or if you know that awkward silence of video calls. We are by now all used to that awkward silence between a question and an answer. So yeah, let's completely forget about that awkwardness, let's say, and just feel free to participate. Oops, sorry. And then going back to my presentation, are these the student skills? Again, if you want to participate, feel free to shine in. I mean, these are things that that student does. Again, very, very narrow, very, very specific to the field. But are these the student skills? I think that's the main point is these are some of these skills and not all. So what skills I think the student is demonstrating in even in a message like that, that's very specific for the molecular biology field, with the type of mindset shift that I'm trying to convey here in this presentation. What I'm trying to demonstrate is that when I look to a message like that, and because I'm from the molecular biology field, so I have some experience in that area, I can understand first that the student must have a really good skill of planning and project managing, because you know that's an entire pipeline of work, you know, going from cell cultures to planning everything related to cell culture and doing the transaction, blah 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 blah. It's a huge project, a huge experiment. So there it is, a really in-demand skill, really important for every job pretty much, that the student just demonstrated and most likely has, which is planning and project managing. Then one thing that I love when we talk about, you know, not only biology, but physics and pretty much a lot of topics related to STEM, and not only, but specifically in STEM, that people in these fields that come out of straight out of college in these fields are like able to deal with very complex topics. And this is a really, really underestimated skill, because, you know, job day by day is not that easy. And most likely, if there are questions to solve, problems to solve, things to do, Most likely, especially if you talk about big companies or if you go to create your own business, it's a very complex situation. You need to deal with a lot of moving parts. And that's a great skill that students that come from this type of background demonstrate. And it's super translatable into a data related job because the projects are normally multi-factor, multi-domain with several stakeholders and several parts, several teams working at the same time. So the complexity and the capacity to plan ahead and manage your own tasks and the project itself, it's super important in the data field. So keeping up this discussion about this case scenario, I would like to, in an hypothetical scenario, discuss what skills is the student potentially not seeing. And since it's a molecular biology student, let's call it Bob. So what skills Bob has that is potentially not seeing? Again, feel free to write in chat or to say something if you are in the call. So being data driven is one of the skills that I like to convey the most about people in early career because being data driven, although it is at the moment second nature for a lot of people, it's not necessarily data driven, it's not second nature to be data driven for everybody. Thinking about data, figure how data work, how you can build a test, but you need to do replications about it and other stuff to make the data really interesting. Um, um, Sorry, I'm just looking into the chat. Apologies. It's really interesting to develop that muscle. It's something that may come as second nature for a lot of people, but others have to really develop them and actually work on it to be a useful thing, to be really useful for a data related job. Curiosity is one thing that I love to explore with people because honestly, there's like the world is really complex, but if we are going to separate things that are people that are really good at, receiving an order and executing on that order, and there's other type of people that, we have this thing and we want to make this thing happen, or we have this issue and we want to solve this issue. How do we get from here from there? And honestly, if you come from a background of research, this is pretty much what you do all day. It's like, okay, how do we go about testing the hypothesis? How we go about creating this data? How we go about testing this data? And this generally is translated in all pretty much of STEM. Able to talk about complex topics, it's literally a game changer. You can be really good, Python programming, machine learning, you name it. If you are not able to talk about the things that you build, the things that you create to the stakeholders, to the users, wherever, it's like it doesn't exist. So you really need to be able to convey complex topics in simple terms, or at least in terms that the majority of your audience or your stakeholders, whoever, understands. And that's a skill that you can train from very early on in your career, like literally in college or in your first positions as an internship or anything like that. You have the opportunity to communicate, plenty of opportunities to communicate. So honestly, take those and try to use that muscle because it's a really important muscle. Um, Stakeholders, people in charge tend to like people that can make them understand what is needed and why it is needed. Another thing that it's a bit of a blur. It's the capacity to be at the cutting edge. I mean a lot of things like this, but the general idea is there's people that really like to, learn one thing and go do that one thing, like let's say it's programming in JavaScript, and go the rest of their life working on JavaScript. but there are the people that are capable of keeping up on the cutting edge, learning new things, keep improving. This is a really interesting skill. If you have been following the field of data in the past year, it has been completely crazy with large language models. I mean, every single week there's a new thing. The cutting edge is always moving further, and yeah, you can choose to be on the same thing, keep doing what you're doing, or keep on improving and learning new stuff. So let me just see if there's any comments here. Give me a sec.
I was just showing on the chat that maybe you are familiar with the this World Economic Forum, and they are presenting the skills of the future. Oh, thank you. Yeah, exactly. As the skills of the future, and you can find the reports on that, like back in the like a decade or so, so you can see the trend. And something which is very outstanding is like this analytic thinking, creative thinking, all that kind of skills, and also skills connected with leadership, always in the ranking are very high. So it's something, if you are not familiar with that, totally recommend that, and you can see also how the trend was going in back into days. But I'm mentioning that only because it's definitely something which just even make the Pedro's message even stronger. You can definitely see the skills here.
Thank you very much, Camila. It's indeed an awesome infographic, and Camila also linked the post, the news article for it. And I mean, I just talked about this, but you can look at it again. Some of the things that I just said that Bob may have as a skill and is not even aware of is in the top skills of 2023, according to the World Economic Forum. And this is exactly the type of mindset that I would like people in these that are listening to this talk to really get into that mindset. So then we have a happy, molecular biology student. Bob is happy. The student who is without an head, because you can put every head on the student. You can even be yourself. It's a very deep image. So let's jump into the second phase, and this case, it's actually as well very similar to an interaction that I have to an engineering student. An interaction went like, it was asking me what online courses do you recommend me doing, and I was like, what would you like to learn? Any particular thing you're interested in working? And then I got absolutely wall of text. This wall of text goes like, cloud is the future, so I need to learn the big three: Google Cloud, AWS, Azure. I already know Python, but big data is the thing, right? So PySpark is a must. Now everybody's talking about generative AI, so I must learn ChatGPT really well and do prompt engineering and do RAG and do and know LangChain, LambIndex, and so forth. What is the message that I'm trying to convey here? What is the biggest mistake of this student? And actually, here I'm trying to convey the idea of two big mistakes. Focusing on what he does not know. This is really big. It's really important to be able to be here in the present moment and acknowledge the path that we took to get here and where we were before and where we are now. Sure, we should have plans for the future, but being enabled to recognize what we already have today and be grateful that we already developed those skills may lead to a lot of fear. And fear is not a good sentiment to develop, to make decisions on. And another thing that is really important is that this student focus on the skills that you want to develop develop is externally driven focus. Please notice that I did this intentionally, of course, but my question is what you like to know, what are you interested in? And the student goes about like saying what you saw in LinkedIn, in a post or whatever. All of this is externally focused. It's not about what the person likes and dislikes, what he tried and liked and disliked. It's about what other people are saying. This is really tough to manage, especially if you are early on your career, because you see everybody talking, everybody seems to be expert in everything and a lot of things, and you feel like you are missing out. And again, the sentiment that arises from this is fear. This is the fear emoji. And moreover, even if this student, let's call him Eugene is the engineering student. Even if Eugene really puts like absurd amount of hours while he's working or doing an internship or studying, and putting even more hours on studying, machine learning, math, Python, is this sustainable? And the answer is no. I mean, life happens. With with age, we don't get more free time, and um, moreover, being constantly in fear is not a good thing. A lot of this is really summed up in an expression called FOMO, fear of missing out. So a lot of what we see in online platforms, namely social media, is inducing this because people are showcasing what they already know. And if we don't know that thing, it may induce fear of missing out. So in order to help you better understand this, I try to create some visualizations, and actually they are adapted from this article here from Trainetic. The link is here on the bottom. So FOMO looks like this. You have different subjects and the depth in the subjects, and FOMO makes you feel like you need to know everything and everything in depth. If we look at what is generally called a generalist, it will be somebody that has a good understanding on several topics, but doesn't explore any of those in the big depth. Then you have a specialist. A specialist is a person that is laser focused on a specific skill set, on a specific set of tools, and really goes in depth in it. And then we have the T-shape. I mean, this is really well talked about. You can read several posts about it, like the one that I linked in the bottom. And it generally goes like you acquire a certain amount of knowledge that is spread in the subject. Let's say that we are talking about data-related subjects. Now you learn a bit of SQL, you know a bit of Python, you know the basics of machine learning with scikit-learn, and then what? I strongly recommend when I talk with people in the early career to start develop their skills as a team. So you already know several different subjects. Now try to go in depth on one. Why do I make this advice to early stage people? Honestly, early stage people, the FOMO scenario is completely impossible. I mean, the FOMO scenario is impossible for everybody, for anybody that's an entire team, is not a person. And the specialist is generally not an early career person. I mean, that's literally the definition. Somebody that is starting is not a specialist. So we are left with the generalist. And in my personal perspective, when you are interviewing people for jobs and you have a generalist with, a very wide horizontal bar, and you, let's say, are hiring for a job that you have in time series, and then a person with a T-shape experience appears that maybe even the T-shaped person even has like a smaller horizontal bar, but it has a bump in the vertical one. And if you are looking for that skill, the T-shaped person will probably win every time against the generalist. Of course, I'm generalizing, but in theory, this should be the way to go. So I strongly advise people in their early career do to try to develop their career, their know-how in the teaching, going in depth in a certain topic. Let's say now I want to get really good into developing Python scripts. Like writing Python, reading Python is really important to me. So for a couple of months, I will focus only on that. And then when you are satisfied with that, you can move to a different T. So your T is not only a T, you can have several T's together. And then you go, let's say, okay, I already study Python, so I'm going to study machine learning and the math between machine learning. And now you start develop another vertical bar for another T with this focus. And in the end of the day, the idea is to develop your career in a way that you have this horizontal bar ever increasing, but several vertical bars. And that's pretty much my advice for a student like this Eugene, our engineering student, and of course also focus on internally objectives, what Eugene would like to develop, and not just focusing on externally what I saw in the post, what I saw in the video, whatever got most likes. Okay, it's okay to try things, but really focus on things that you generally like, because it's easier and it will generate less friction. So now I'm pretty much on time. I wanted to go in the skills exercise. Let me just look at the chat if there's something. I don't think there is. What I would like to show now is this exercise, which is basically a questionnaire. The way this questionnaire was designed, simple 7 questions, is to have this with you in your first steps in the career or when you are finishing as a student, and not filling it once and leaving it be, but filling it once and then 6 months later come back to here, to these questions, fill them again and compare. Why? In order to create you a possibility of looking at things, of seeing your own improvement written down, because writing things down is very powerful and helps a lot visualizing them. So what I have in mind for this, I'm going to show you my 7 answers to this, and then just give you an idea of what I expect to be answer for this. And then I will like to ask you to the participants to just try to answer these themselves. And if you like, of course, we'll be very glad to hear your answers, to share your answers with us, and even maybe discuss them a bit. And if you don't want to share them, it's completely fine. Just take the document on yourself, fill it on yourself and by yourself, and then you can always compare the future self with the past self. So going into to my own answers, and again, please feel free to interrupt me if you want. How many projects have I managed so far? This is a tricky question, right? Because looking back into college times is not necessarily, you are not necessarily always the main person responsible for a project. I put 20 plus because when I was in academia, I really did a lot of projects that I was the sole responsible and I had to manage them. And in my recent years in the company that I've been working on, I also did quite a lot of ownership of projects. So I put 20 plus. Maybe I'm being a bit too too generous with myself, but I think it's around the ballpark of what I manage. So looking at this and trying to be as honest as I can with myself, I can see that, whoa, it's actually a big number. I was not expecting it to be that big, but the most importantly for me is that if I look like 1 year back, 2 year back, I won like several projects, maybe 2 years back. I maybe doubled the amount of projects that I manage, and that's awesome to look back and see that I developed that skill, but I'm still working on that skill. So regarding presentations, again, communication is really, really, really important. You saw from the slide that Camila shared with us, and from what I talked before, like being able to convey your ideas, your knowledge is super important. People may call it, soft skills, the capacity to communicate, but honestly, if you are in the data job or in the data job market, communication is not a soft skill at all. It's part of the job 100%. I put 50 plus here. It's like, honestly, when I was in the PhD, I was doing like so many presentations that I think that I'm probably underestimating it. But yeah, the most important part of this is the second question, like the percentage of those presentations when I was the expert in the room. This is a
There's
really interesting.
sorry,
Sorry.
I think that that's a very interesting question which we have in the chat, and that can help with the discussion. So could you tell more about the projects which you perform? What kind of projects were that?
Oh yeah, thank you very much, Camille. I didn't see that at all. Sorry. Yeah, personal projects or professional projects. I'm counting everything here. Again, this is designed to be for people in the early stage career. So I'm counting stuff like um, college stuff. Of course, if it was like a very small project, not. But if it's like, stuff that I did in my master thesis, stuff that I did in my PhD, like all those projects within the thesis themselves, I'm counting them in. And then, of course, I'm counting as well professional projects, stuff that I did on my own, like to increase my CV, and also stuff that I did in my actual job. Hopefully that answered the questions, and my apologies for not noticing it before. So I was in question 2B, I believe. Yeah, this is the most important part, or the most interesting part of question 2, the percentage of those presentations when I was the expert in the room. This is something that I really like to convey to people starting their career in a data-related field. You are going to be the data expert in the majority of the meetings that you're going to be in, period. Sure, you're going to have a manager and colleagues that work with you and that are more experienced than you. But as soon as, in your day job, you start to develop projects and start to getting some experience, in the majority of the calls, you're going to be the expert. You're going to be the data person in that call. And here I put 50% plus because, again, academia, when you are in academia, you're generally not the expert in the room. But after that, really, I would like to challenge people that are listening to this to really think about when you're doing a presentation, if you are not the expert in the room, the data expert in the room. And this is really a mind blowing experience, because then you realize that the way that you need to convey your ideas, the way that you need to explain stuff, it's completely different. Because if you are the one that knows the most about that subject in the meeting, all the people need to understand the message in simpler terms, in simplified terms. So it's really a mind changing experience. So when you touch in this question, really think about it. Oh, sorry. So the third question is, what colors me FOMO? So this is uh, this is really interesting and important for me, because again, as I mentioned before, in the case of Eugene, the engineering student, FOMO is really bad for you in terms of the stress that it creates, but more importantly, people don't make really good decisions when they are on the sentiment, on the mindset like fear. And what this question is here for is to make you, the listener, think about what causes you FOMO, or what may cause in the future, or what causes right now. For me, it's 100% like scrolling on social media, like LinkedIn or any other, and seeing people achievements. It looks like everybody is an expert in every single thing, and it's really stress inducing. But at the same time, I need to stop and think like, okay, that person really developed that skill, or it's showcasing a skill that he developed. Is not like I don't need to do it just because an external factor, just because somebody in my community or in my connections is doing it as well. I should be focused again, as I talked for the case of Eugene, in more intrinsic values and objectives, and not necessarily on external values or external ideas. So that's why this question is here. So we can identify where the FOMO, where that external pressure comes from. And then this is really the part about the skills. Um, as we talked before, mainly for the exercise of Bob, the molecular biology student, um, and a bit of on Eugene when we talked about the T shape. So, what are your skills? And here, please, in question 4A, really try to be as specific as possible. Like, okay, I'm able to read and write Python, but specifically what pandas. I'm really trying to get better at pandas, so I'm now succeeding with that. I'm also now able to do documentation in Python scripts. So this is the type of specificity that I'm looking for. It's not like, oh, Python, I can write Python. No, what can you do with Python? And for instance, I also have here like version control of Python programs, like using GitHub and stuff like that. Again, trying to be as specific as you can, because if you use this document as I intended it to, the purpose is in a year from now we're going to look back at this, or 6 months from now we're going to look back at this and see, oh yeah, this is when I developed that skill, and now I've been using that skill pretty much every day or every other day or something like that. So again, another example with unit tests and statistics. For instance, the topic of statistics is really difficult for me, at least, to go into depth of what do I really know about statistics. But even so, I try to my best to go into being specific. And then the second part of the question, those generalist skills that I would like to have. And PySpark, Spark in general is one of the things that I would like to. But please notice that in this example here in Spark, I really don't know what I don't know. So it's hard for me to put in the bullet points and be very specific what I would like to learn. So what I did was to write doing a project from top to bottom in Spark. So an entire project in Spark. I really would like to do that. Why? Yes. Oh, I guess it was nothing. Why? Because I really think that is an awesome technology, and I think it will benefit me in work. Honestly, these days you don't see many topics in like social media about Spark, but it's still the technology that I want to develop the most because I think it's really useful. So the final question is, what would you like to specialize in? So again, the T-shape, we were talking about the horizontal bar, the general skills, and now things that you really would like to do a deep dive, so develop the vertical line. And honestly, I played a bit with LLMs, with all this fuss that has been about it, and I enjoyed it. So I had fun with it. So I would really like to spend a lot of time in it and specialize in it. And here are some, again, very specific objectives that I have with it. So the way that I planned this, it was now to give you attendees some minutes to write this on your own. Actually, I should share with you the link of the document, which I think is this one. Apologies. Here it is. So this is the link for the document. It's a Word document in Google Drive. Please feel free to download it and then edit it in the tool that you may want. Apologies for not sharing it earlier. I completely forgot. So what I would like to propose here is we do a 10 minutes break. You guys have access to the document, download it. You can even download it like rich text and then edit it in the notepad or something. The idea here is not really doing the exercise for doing, is to think about every single one of the answers, okay? And then I'll suggest in 10 minutes, so at 18:55 in my time, so in 10 minutes from now at 55, we come back, and if people have stuff to share, great, we talk about it. If nobody feels like sharing, great as well, and we close up this session. Thank you very much for you all that shared and for you all that were here. Really thank you for being here. Please give me some feedback. The best way to talk to me, it's in the LinkedIn. The LinkedIn is in the platform, is also in this presentation here. Just shoot me out a message, tell me that you came from here so I can recognize you immediately. And a big thank you to Camila. I was not the easiest speaker to get. So thank you very much for pushing me and to insist and to make this talk happen, because otherwise, if it was not you, it will not happen. And of course, thank you PyData. And that's it on my side.
Thank you so much, Pedro. It was a great workshop. I'm very happy that it was very interactive. Also, thank you so much for like make this workshop interactive. So thank you for you for all the participants. At one technical thing, because you were sharing some private information here about your experience and so on. So as you know, this workshop is recorded, but we'll just cut this part of the workshop. So just make that more comfortable. And other than that, this first part, which was the presentation, you will be able to find that in the PyData Global channels. Perhaps we'll post that on YouTube. Yeah, thank you so much. I believe that we all learn a lot today. So once again, Pedro, very much thank you for this workshop, and congrats on your all development, because clearly with this workshop you presented that you are very aware of your development, and you are going in an amazing path. So congrats to you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, Camila.